Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we try to figure out what companies are really up to by digging through their official paperwork. And today we've got a real treat potentially uncovering exactly what StepStone Private Credit Fund LLC is doing with your money. Well, not exactly your money, but the money they are managing. And let me tell you, there are some interesting numbers to unpack here. Think less about fancy financial jargon. Go on and more about what actually matters for investors and the company's health before we dive in. If you love getting straight insights from these sometimes dry corporate documents, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We also have a Discord community linked in the description below where we talk more about these things, so come on over. So we are looking at a report from November 2025 for StepStone Private Credit Fund LLC. This is a current report, meaning it is for events that happened recently and they needed to tell the authorities about it pretty quickly. The company itself, StepStone Private Credit Fund LLC, is making some moves. They are in the business of private credit, which basically means they lend money to companies that are not publicly traded on the stock market. It is a bit more hands-off than typical stock investments, but can offer unique returns. One of the big stories here is about unregistered shares. They sold over 1.2 million shares of their limited liability company interests to investors. This means they weren't registered with the main stock market regulators, which is common for private offerings. And this wasn't for chump change. They raised a hefty $31.8 million from these sales. It shows there is a lot of interest in what StepStone Private Credit Fund LLC is doing. They are doing this using exemptions in securities law called Section C, R5 of the Securities Act and Regulation. D, this is pretty standard for private fundraising. They are saying they sold these shares directly to sophisticated investors who they believe understand the risks involved and don't need the full public registration process. Now let's talk about the actual value of what they own and how much it is worth. This is where the numbers start to paint a clearer picture as of the end of October 2025. Their net asset value per S-share was $26.27. That is what each share is technically worth based on their holdings. Overall, the company's net asset value was about $1.67 billion. This is the total value of everything they own, minus what they owe. It gives you a sense of the scale of their operations. Their investment portfolio, the actual stuff they've invested in, is valued at a whopping $2.85 billion. This is the market value of all their loans and investments. But like many companies, they also have debt amounting to nearly $1.23 billion. This leverage can magnify returns, but also increases the risk if things go south. StepStone Private Credit Fund LLC is also in the middle of a much larger offering. They are looking to raise up to $10 billion in shares. This is a continuous offering, meaning they are selling shares over time. So far, they have issued over 61 million shares in this larger private offering, raising a significant $1.61 billion. This is a substantial amount of capital they are managing so consistently. They plan to keep selling shares on a monthly basis. This indicates they are actively seeking more capital to deploy into their private credit strategies. And finally, for those who like to see the raw data, they've included an exhibit, which is the cover page interactive data file. Basically, it is a machine-readable version of the report for regulatory purposes. Now let's think about what all these numbers actually mean. StepStone Private Credit Fund LLC is clearly a significant player in the private credit market. They are raising a lot of money and deploying it into various investments, the large offering size up to 10. Buy. Leon shows ambition and a confidence in their ability to find good investment opportunities. The net asset value being substantial at over $1.6 billion is a good sign, but it is important to remember the leverage here. They've taken on over $1.2 billion in debt, which is a considerable amount relative to their equity. The fact that they are selling unregistered share and using private placement exemptions is standard for this type of fund, attracting institutional investors and high net worth individuals who can handle the risks the continuous offering model. Means they are always open for business looking to bring in new capital, which could fuel future growth, but also suggests they might need this constant influx to maintain their operations or expand. One thing to consider is the valuation of their investment portfolio at $2.85 billion compared to the net asset value of $1.67 billion. This $1.18 billion difference is primarily due to their debt, so while the asset value is high, a significant portion of it is financed by borrowings. This is where risk management becomes paramount. If interest rates rise or if their investments perform poorly, the debt could become a major burden. The company's direction seems to be focused on aggressive growth in the private credit space. They want to capture as much market share as possible by continuously raising funds. And investing them, a notable risk is indeed their leverage. If the market turns or if their underlying investments sour, a high debt load can quickly lead to insolvency or significant distress. Another opportunity is the growing demand for private credit as traditional lending becomes more constrained, but with this opportunity comes increased competition in conclusion. StepStone Private Credit Fund LLC is a large and active private credit fund. They are successfully raising capital and managing a significant portfolio. The key for them and for investors to watch will be how they manage their substantial debt load and the performance of their underlying investments. The large offering size indicates a strong belief in their strategy, but the leverage is a factor that cannot be ignored for a complete picture of their financial health. Alright, that is our breakdown of StepStone Private Credit Fund LLC's latest filing. What is your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.